it got MCA all riled up.
Doesn't matter whether it's a black cat or a white cat, as long as they can catch mice.
That is hypocrisy.
Bread and butter issues are not being resolved as fast as they should. Hello everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Beyond the Headlines, where today we will unpack the twists and turns of the Kuala Kubu Baru by-election. My name is Amalina, Kamal.
And I'm Hazween, Hassan. Now, prior to the polls, there's been some news unfolding around MCA's firm stance in the KKB by-election. This after MCA being on the receiving end of some rather pointed criticisms. MCA President Datuk Sri Dr. Seong did not mince his words when he addressed the insults hurled at his party by DAP. He questioned whether it's fair to expect MCA support after getting such treatment.
Yes, and let's unpack this a little bit. Now, when Wee Ka Seong highlighted that there have been instances where DAP accused MCA time and time again of betraying the Chinese community, it's a tough pill to swallow, especially when pride and dignity is at stake here. But what we want to highlight is that should political parties prioritize personal grievances over the greater good of the public and its welfare? Here with us to clear the air and hopefully bring light to what has transpired so far, we have MCA Youth Information Chief Neow Choo Seong. Welcome, Neow, to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you, Amalina. Thanks for the invite.
Right. Also, with us today, we have from the DAP front, Selangor State Assembly Member for Kampung Tunku, YB Lim Yi Wei. Welcome, YB, to Beyond Headlines.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. I would like to start the discussion first to kind of commend the both of you for, agreeing to be here while also knowing that both of, the other divide is coming to attend the show. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's evident that, emotions are running high in this scenario, and while, some say that it's understandable for MCA to feel a little bit slighted, but it's also crucial, again, as I mentioned, to consider the implications of, such political rift on governance and public welfare. Hazween, you can relay it.
Sure, let me kickstart the questions for the both of you. I'll start with Neow first. This one's to you,
Okay.
to MCA. So Anthony Locke, right, made a comment, the Tau Kechin comment, alluding to the image of what MCA is, and it got MCA all riled up. So, however, if you reflect on his statement, this is what public sentiments are like towards MCA anyways, and it's not new information. So why has the party become so incensed about this? Why are they so upset?
Well, I think the reason is obvious. Many questions about the spirit of unity government and so on. But my question is why it happens in the first place. I mean, if everyone upholds the spirit of the unity government, I think for a top leader, in fact, the number one leader from DAP, to come up with such a statement, it's can be considered very unbecoming and very insensitive. In fact, I mean, we have it for MCA. We are used to it. We have been the political opponents for decades. Yeah, we are fine. That's nothing personal, but. As a party, as a political party, I think there are principles, there is a dignity that we have to uphold and defend. Right. So I think this is completely separate issue if you want to look and relate it with the KKB, because I think MCA has made its stance very clear ever since the last 6 states elections, where we decided to sit out from the elections and focus on the transformation process, and we are preparing ourselves for the next general election instead. That has been the I would say the stance, the party stance, and comes to this by-election. I think it holds no difference because it's under Selangor, and we had the state election just couple months ago, and this time I think they have decided to fill. Just happened it's DAP seat, the incumbent. So I think it's related to the previous discussion, and again the decision made by the party leadership, that is, there's no need for us to really involve into the state elections. I mean the by-election, sorry.
Right.
We will get to the KKB by-election in a bit discussion, but for this particular discourse, right, we want to address the tension and at least quash every single misconception that's thrown out there, because this is the time for us to at least level ourselves. My question is to YB. When you read the reports of DAP's own Secretary General Anthony Locke criticizing MCA as a party for Tauke's, right, and he didn't like MCA, what were your feelings at the time? I mean, I'm sure you have affiliates from MCA yourself.
Right. I think we have to look at Saudara Anthony Locke's comments in the proper context. And when he said that that was his perception of MCA growing up, that which did not motivate him to, let's say, if he wanted to join politics, join MCA. That was his perception. I feel that what he said is, like Hazween said earlier, something that is already known. It is a sentiment that is held not only by Locke, but a lot of Chinese out there. So I think it is not unusual. It is frank, but it doesn't mean that this is a full stop to possible collaboration in the future. I mean, I'm glad to hear that MCA is working on an internal rejuvenation, because from time to time, all parties need it, all organizations need it. But yeah, I want to emphasize that, what Luke said is not necessarily a dead end to future collaboration within the unity government.
Right.
It's like, akin to DAP. Many parties, all parties across the divide have accused DAP of being all kinds of things. But has it stopped us from actually working to prove that this image is not correct? And, we stand for freedom, we stand for equality, we stand for justice, social security. That has not stopped us. And so I think that Saudara Anthony Locke's comments have to be taken in the context that he said it, that growing up, he did not like MCA because he felt that MCA was a Tauke party. But this does not close the door on anything, to be honest. That's what I feel.
On closing the door, and that this doesn't mean that there shouldn't be any more unity, right? So back to you, Neow. Your party has called out DAP for being hypocritical because you deem them being disrespectful, and understandably so. I mean, of course, being called names and as the party put it, being insulted. If that's the case, that's reasonable, and it's understandable why you would refuse to offer support to the DAP. But on the other hand, my question is, if you can't get along and you no longer stand for the same values, why are you still with the unity government then?
I think it's very clear that we are where we are today. It's because of Barisan Nasional. We uphold the spirit of Barisan Nasional. This unity government is being formed after GE, when there is no single party can really form with enough number to form a government. And we have, we accepted the fact that, we need to work together under the spirit of the unity government for the betterment of the country. But doesn't mean that, under that context, we can still, we accept anything, accusations, insults, and so on. I think that is another issue. And as for MCA, being a member of MCA myself, I think obviously I take it as an insult because I myself is not a Tauke, right? And we can live with all kinds of perception, even like YB Lim mentioned, people's perception towards DAP. It's fine. But it's, again, being a leader, to come up with that statement, personal feeling, publicly, I think that doesn't help. We need to understand that there are things as a leader, what to say and what not.
And again, so to echo what you just said, I want to go back to YB, because Anthony Locke is it holds such a high position in the party that he is fronting, right? So it's a question of tastefulness. So what's your response to Neow, and how can, you know, people move better, move from this particular predicament? How can we, you know, be better coalition members?
I think I will not presume to ask Anthony to you know, that was his feelings at the time. That was what he said at the time, and I think he can defend it, you know, very well on his own without me defending it. That's what I believe. But how can we be better coalition partners? Of course, I wish there were less, you know, sniping in the media and all. But I think within a coalition, all parties should be very honest with themselves internally, you know, inside the party,
Right.
and also with each other as to what each other's weaknesses are. So and I think it's very important not to then assign work of, let's say, attracting voters based on racial lines.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. You know, I mean, the very easy way to look at, let's say, managing a coalition is probably the BN model, where you say, okay, you know, UMNO takes care of the Malay voters, PKR takes care of the Malay voters, for example. DAP or MCA tackles the Chinese voters, and MIC tackles the Indian voters. I feel is the lazy way to do coalition politics nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, because our people of all races are facing a lot of similar issues. And the biggest issues in society today are not because of race, but because of class issues. You know, the rich sometimes getting richer, the poor getting poorer, or not being able to climb up the ladder. So I think that's where coalition politics should go, you know, to be able to look internally inside your party and say, look, what are we missing? And then to be able to speak frankly with your coalition partner and say, this is my weakness, this is my strength, but let's not be lazy and just assign our tasks to move the coalition forward based on race.
Neow, your response to that, because okay, some keywords there: lazy coalition politics. Barisan Nasional has been, you know, known to push for that, as suggested by YB.
Yeah.
MCA Youth's point of view.
I'll just jump on that a
Okay.
little bit. Like, I mean, that was the old model, which I think what Shari Hamdan used to say about the consociational model. Yeah, but that was the old model. So I wouldn't say it was lazy then, but it would be lazy now, knowing what we know now.
Sure.
Okay.
You?
Well, I think it's very obvious that we have our own social structure in Malaysia. That's something that we cannot ignore, that this is our identity. MCA was formed, of course, Malaysian Chinese-based party.
Right.
But doesn't mean that we are here just for the Chinese interests. Of course, we are Chinese. We will, Malaysian Chinese, but doesn't mean that we cannot fight for the whole Malaysia, right? And like what YB Lim mentioned earlier, the issue now we are facing after 60 over years of independence, the issues we are facing is no longer race-based. I don't deny we have some racial issues, but the biggest challenges facing the country and the people is the social class issues, the economy, poverty and so on, that involve everyone. Not all Chinese are rich, not all Malays are poor, not all Indians are. We should look beyond that. I agree. Nevertheless, we cannot throw away or take away our identity as a Chinese. This is our identity, right? But doesn't mean we will go against other races, right? In fact, today, if you look at MCA, it's more accepted by other races. That's the fact, right? So that is how we take it under the formula or formation of Barisan Nasional. We represent our own community, but we also, at the same time, we understand and respect other communities. That is the most important thing. We are not telling the whole world that we are here for everyone, but when it comes to action, we are only favoring certain group of people. We are not here. That is hypocrisy for me. If you mentioned earlier. And secondly, I would want to add on to your question earlier that I haven't answered was talking about hypocrisy, role of MCA and Barisan Nasional. I think we are playing a check and balance role in the coalition, in the government. It's very unfair whenever we give constructive criticisms and suggestions, and then we are being called out as a traitor or being in favor of the government. Whereas you have the same members of parliament, for example, within the coalition or maybe within Pakatan Harapan, giving criticism as well. For instance, I think YB Lim Guan Eng did the same to his own colleagues.
Right.
But this is not personal. It's for the betterment of the state, of the people. It's issues, right? This is for the betterment of the government, and what we are doing is the same. We want this government to continue because we want this country to progress, right? But how can you be cherry picking, and be biased whenever we come up with the statements that is in favor of you, you call us as not supportive. And then whenever your own people within your coalition say it, it's fine. For me, it's unfair. I think with 2 members of parliament in the coalition, unity government, I think those 2 MCA members of parliament are doing their due diligence. They are working very hard in fighting people's issues. They are not fighting for MCA. They are fighting for the people.
Okay.
So why can't we look into that perspective?
Do you think there's a reason why you're being singled out? I mean, as you pointed out, that cherry picking, and it seems like it's only when MCA points out, there's a certain weakness or you criticize something.
Well, I cannot speak for them. It is up to them to accept it or not, right? But from there, you can see that how they take it, right? So, but for us, we will continue to speak out because we are here not just because of the numbers. We are here not just because of the power, but we are here to speak out. And there are some people who are saying that, why now? Why not before? This is very unfair. If you want to compare the before and now, this is unfair. We are talking about the current and the future, right? And this is part of our transformation efforts. We want to be better. If you ask me personally, I joined politics. It's not because of the past. It's for the future. So it's very unfair to call on that, hey, why now you started to speak, right? This is very immature for me, right? You have to look at the issues and subjects separately. You cannot just like lump sum it and and being I would say cherry picking again, and being selective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for stating across your point. My question now is to YB. Just to follow up from what Neow mentioned, because he did mention that MCA is more well-loved among the masses, and the AP, seemingly to kind of like alluding that the AP only appeals to a certain demographic. How would you respond to that?
Sorry, MCA is more loved among the masses and DAP appeals to a certain demographic. I would like to get clarification to what that certain demographic is before answering.
MCA appeals to not just one voters.
Gotcha. Got it. Well, the founding principle of DAP has never been to be a race-based party, to represent a single community based on race. DAP is a Malaysian party, from the north to the south to east to west. So that would be my straightforward answer. DAP has always been a Malaysian party. Yes, from time to time, our demographic and also some of the prominent leaders have leaned towards being Chinese majority. But if you look back at the formation of the party, and the prominent leaders, they have always been very multiracial. Devan Nair, P. Pato, Ibrahim Singgeh, Ahmad Ton. So these are all the leaders that have shaped the DAP with a Malaysian outlook in mind. The Malaysian Malaysia, which I'm not afraid to say in public. Malaysia.
Okay. And then, when we talk about the KKB by-election, right? So the previous assemblywoman, now Lee, was loved by KKB constituents. She's able to connect with the constituents from all walks of life of sorts, in helping to and helping to develop KKB itself to become one of the popular tourism domestically here in the state. Now, Lee herself is not a local; she's actually from Muar. Is this why Pang was chosen as the candidate for DAP?
Yeah, she's a local. Is that one big factor for you to consider?
I think generally the party leadership would consider. I mean, they have multiple factors. Being local or not is of course one of them, but I wouldn't say that they chose her specifically for being an outsider. So like Wybili from Muar, and but Pang is a Selangorian. It's just that she is from Ampang, just not Kuala Kubu Baru. She is a Selangorian. I think all in all, I received this similar reaction also when I was nominated in 2018, where my opponent, which happened to be from MCA, was also playing up, his status as a local PJ boy. And I think if we can answer, I'll just boil it down to this lah. What Deng Xiaoping said. Doesn't matter whether it's a black cat or a white cat, as long as they can catch mice.
The AP recently said that not the priority is not only for the candidate to be local or not. I mean, as you also mentioned, but for the candidate to be winnable. So, in your point of view, what makes Pang a winnable candidate? Because we want to know more.
I would say it's a combination of. I mean, we wanted the candidate to replace Wybili to be a woman first, because DAP we've always committed to trying to achieve that 30% of women being fielded in elections, and also subsequently 30% of women being actually in the legislature. So a female candidate was obviously like a very strong motivating factor. What makes Pang a winnable candidate? I think she has had the experience serving in 2 ministries. From my interactions with her over several years, she has always been very personable, able to interact with people from all backgrounds. And I think her ministry knowledge would actually be very useful to Kuala Kubu Baru. So previously she served under YBOB in Mestec, and before this by-election she was with YBNGA in KPKT, which also covers local government issues. And from what I've seen in Kuala Kubu Baru, there are quite a bit of local government issues relating to, of course, maintenance, land, because it's a wide area, upgrading of infrastructure to continually attract tourists. But also, I think her experience in Mestec would enable her to take the work that Wybili has done in growing domestic tourism and actually push it towards sustainable tourism, which is, I think, the way to go globally. What more in Selangor and what more in Kuala Kubu Baru.
Okay, so on, I think you made it clear that the AP wanted to go with a female candidate, obviously to continue the legacy left behind by the late Lee. But we previously went down to the ground at NSD. We had a reporter there, and based on the ground readings, many of the locals actually they are vouching for one Saripah Baka, an Ulu Selangor municipal member who's actually quite popular among the locals, and she's a local too. And in their own words, she's the next best person to fill in the legacy left behind by Lee. So did DAP at any point consider Saripah as a candidate? And if she's that popular, if that's who the locals want, do you think DAP is risking losing winning by not choosing to field her?
Well, I'm sure the top leadership has had their considerations.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not privy to it. But I think it's that combination of weighing all factors that made the leadership choose Pang. But I'm sure that Saripah will continue to be a great asset to the team and the campaign as we go along.
Before I ask Neow this, I just want to understand again from YB's perspective, because as Hazween mentioned, because the locals really wanted Saripah. Do you think the AP would risk losing popular votes then? Like how would the campaign tackle this?
I think first of all, we have to the campaign would have to show Pang as someone who is capable, knowledgeable, and relatable in the spirit, or in the style of YB Lee. She would have to be able to articulate what she can bring to the table, especially when she's not a local from Kuala Kubu Baru. But I think our voter base generally has been, I would say that our DAP voter base is one that does not accept things blindly, and our base is always happy to give us feedback. So if you were to ask if we were to risk the popular vote, I think there are ways where we can sort of communicate with each other to make sure that their anxieties are being taken care of during this campaign period, and also after. What comes next? Yeah.
To you now, Neow. KKB, it's traditionally an MCA seat, right? Then DAP has since taken over since Lee assumed, the role in 2013, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. 2013.
Is this part of the reason why perhaps, having lost to, one way to put it, having lost to DAP, a very, an MCA stronghold, is this part of the reason why you are refusing to campaign, your party is refusing to campaign? Did this have any bearing on your decision?
Earlier, I think President we also did mention, make it very clear that why we are not contesting.
Right.
First, because of our decision, party leadership's decision, to sit out from the previous state election,
Right.
and now KKB is the same. And then, of course, because of that, I think, and the secondly is because of we want to really focus on really moving forward, transforming, and really preparing for the next general election, instead of going for that. And with due respect to DAP,
Right.
So there's no need for MCA to contest, and I think that decision, is wise enough politically, and also I think in terms of the current situation within the unity government, I think that is the wise decision for me.
So even if Anthony Locke didn't make that Tauke China remark,
Well, that
You
is
would've-
only added salt to the injury.
Okay.
For me, as I said, I think we have seen so many insults, even defamations. You see how many DAP leaders was involved. That for MCA, we are used to it. The political game. We are matured enough, as I said. But that is not the main consideration. Yeah. But at the same time, I think the leadership is also answerable to the grassroots. Yeah. Not to forget, we have thousands of MCA members in KKB. Yeah. And we are answerable. I think President, the leadership, they are answerable to the grassroots as well.
Right.
So it's our responsibility to uphold the dignity of the party. At the same time, it's also our responsibility to bring the party forward. So I think that is the wise decision to be made.
okay.
In some aspects, we can look at it as MCA also being the big brother to DAP as a coalition partner, in a sense whereby it's okay, why should we contest with a fellow coalition partner when DAP is already able to secure the seat?
I don't think that sentiment exists. I think we are here. There's no big brother or small brother. I think you can call yourself big brother when you have 40 seats. But we were dominant before. MCA was dominant for many years in the past.
Yes.
We accepted Gerakan into BN coalition with no issue, right? I mean, it is not about the sentiment. I mean, personal feeling. As a political party, as political leaders, what your major concern should be the people and the country. I think that sentiment does not exist at all.
Do you think that if, let's say, your party took a stance on this and, say we can't agree on ABC and, that there's somewhat a limit to that, and it's limiting to perhaps the cooperation between your parties in the coalition, do you think to not allow this to drag on further, it's just time to say goodbye to the unity government? Do you think that's a possible route to take for MCA?
Well, if you get angry to someone, will you just say goodbye to someone? and I would not want to see you, or I will just leave the place. No, that is not the way. I think we still have our roles to play in the unity government at the federal level. I think we still uphold the spirit of Barisan Nasional, and that is already the fact. We already been part of the unity government, so we want to continue what the mandate given by the people, even though with 2 seats, but we have our responsibility to provide check and balance and to give constructive advice, criticism to the government. We will continue to speak up for the people. That is for sure. As I said, everyone should take it positively. I mean, doesn't mean when you are in the coalition, you cannot give your constructive views. You cannot say something that is for the betterment of the people or for the country. I think we have to be very professional in that sense. Secondly, whatever happens in KKB, like many have agreed, it would not affect the federal level. Our coalition, this unity government is at the federal level. We don't mix up this sentiment with the reality. The reality is we are part of the unity government at the federal level, right? We are not in the Selangor government. We are not. We sit out from the state election, right? Yeah, so that is not, to be honest, it's not related at all. Yeah, and I think our relationship, presidents, our leadership's relationship within the unity government is fairly friendly. I have not seen my president escape or sit out from any unity government top leadership meeting. Never. He was always there. All party leaders were there, and they discussed things. I mean, within that closed door meeting, right? That should be the spirit, right? Even though if you want to bang table, you want to criticize your coalition party, that is the time, right? If you uphold the spirit of the unity government. But it's not for us, and you have never seen Seong or our MCA leaders openly attack or started attacking any political party leaders within the coalition. Never, right? Because this is our responsibility. I think we are matured enough. We are in this society where I think the most important thing is the country and the welfare of the people. And we are facing so much challenges economically, politically, socially, and there's no time to quarrel, I think. And on that note, I believe my president, as a member of parliament, as a president of the party, is very clear with that direction. His priorities were only on the people and the country.
Still on KKB, I want to just bring back the discussion to this. To YB, how do you think, or probably give us the visibility of how DAP usually, strategize itself to attract or win the non-Malay, non-Chinese voters, and will we be expecting it for this coming by-election?
Well, I mean, the simple strategy is to win. We want voters to come out. We want voter turnout to be high, because we believe that voters, have their space and they should be a part of, how to say, pesta demokrasi.
Right.
That. Yeah, so with regards to the non-Malay voter base, so actually that would include Orang Asli also. There is a percentage of Orang Asli voters in Kuala Kubu Baru. For I think Chinese and Indian, we would like the voter turnout to be high, and that is the straightforward strategy basically.
I mean, I understand because you did mention it's about class at the end of the day, not necessarily about the voter profile.
Correct.
Or whatever.
There are a lot of Malay voters in Kuala Kubu Baru who have expressed very deep sadness for YB Lee's passing, and we hope that they will also entrust us and Pang with the same trust and love that they gave YB Lee. Yeah.
This perhaps not just specific to the KKB and the by-election coming up. What do you think? Because you mentioned, it's an issue of class. That's what's most important for DAP. You fight for that. But what do you think of, say, the perception that you might have, or that people might have of DAP rather, that in terms of class, you have more of an appeal to people, urbanites, people in more urban areas, not so much in, say, small towns like KKB, for example.
I would say that it's not entirely accurate, but I understand why it's so, because I would say that politicians in the urban areas, one thing, of course, we have better infrastructure, so slightly better Wi-Fi. We have managed to carve out better visibility in the media and also on social media. But in semi-urban, semi-rural, rural areas, our reps and our grassroots are working quietly on the ground. So I can't remember where I saw it. I think it might have been, I saw an excerpt. I think it might have been from the Star. Someone did write that they said that YB Lee did not seem to cut a very strong or sharp figure in Selangor politics. Right. But then when you go on the ground in Kuala Kubu Baru, you can find that people knew her record, knew her team, and knew that she served. So when we talk about the DAP strategy, not focusing on race, but instead of but focusing more on like the class, that class solidarity, enabling social mobility. That is still the core of what we fight for. It's just a difference of visibility, I would say. But so the party I think it has evolved to a certain extent where last time, there was a lot of attention on urban politicians in Selangor, like YB Yobin, YB Henayo, YB Tony Pua. But of course, in the rural areas, we are growing our talents, our grassroots, and also we are also slowly publicizing them as we go along. So one example I can give is YB Rara Yang Sufura. She went to Qatari, which I would say is semi-urban. And now she's in Bentong, which has a huge rural area, but she's known.
Yeah, she's popular. Yeah,
right. Okay, well, still relatively related to the KKB by-election, but I just also want to link this to the entirety of the image of the unity government. We know that public criticism is nothing new, right? And especially towards the ruling government of the day, because we have how many entities, about 19 of sorts. And in light of the KKB by-election, there have been instances where the public actually took it out and aired their frustrations to the PH, Pakatan Harapan's election machinery. In a recent video, apparently a local man in KKB was seen berating a Pakatan Harapan party member over the state of the country, price of goods, in terms of food, education, school supplies. And some claim that this could actually herald a protest among voters, which would affect voting in KKB. So do you think instances like this reflect the broader sentiments of Malaysians in general? And how is DAP mitigating this?
On the big picture level, of course, within the unity government, we still work towards trying to solve the social economic issues. I have to say that YB Rafizila in the Economic Affairs Ministry is pushing really hard to address issues like cost of living, the penyaluran of government aid through for example, Padu. I'm a big supporter of Padu because I think it is time to have that central database, the most updated database, and of the demographics of Malaysians, how many people in a household, so on and so forth, so that we can channel subsidies or aid better without having people to register. That's one thing. One thing I do say to people also is that some of the work that's being done, especially to address like issues like prices of goods, cost of living, you will only see the fruits in 2 or 3 years. Yes. Because we are laying the base for a stronger, more solid and comprehensive economic management. That's one thing. The second thing is, it's actually common to get scolded sometimes on the campaign trail. I think that is something that the team has to learn how to manage. Because of course, as we go along, we have to understand also that a lot of voters, they in the non-election period, sometimes if you really have no problems, let's say local problems that you need your YB to settle, then you might probably just not interact with them at all. So when the campaign happens, things naturally get a bit more focused, and so sometimes voters, when they feel like they are frustrated or not listened to, they of course use the campaign trail as an opportunity to express their frustration. So this is something which is not unusual when we are campaigning.
I mean, I suppose it's also because the party is more visible during the campaign.
Yeah. So it's a good chance, for voters to say, hey,
air it out.
It hasn't been looked into. It's absolutely fair. I understand where that's coming from. But I think we need to look at this by-election in its context also, that this is a state by-election. And what we want to do, what we want to achieve for this by-election is to maintain the unity government's majority in the Selangor State Assembly. Because we are sitting, prior to YB passing, we were sitting at 34 to 22. Now, kind of 35 because 34 plus 1 because one member of Bersatu decided to show support for our Menteri Besar. So that is, I think it has to be looked in this context, that fine, if you want to vote or send a protest vote during KKB, numerically it still does not affect the federal government. I know it sounds like a very cynical thing to say, and people will say, okay lah, fine, then I'll spoil my vote or do whatever. But what I, as a Selangor Assembly woman in the unity government, and we are a unity government in Selangor, I have to correct that. It's just that MCA is not in the government, but UMNO is. We're a unity government in Selangor. We want to maintain that majority. That is very important for us. So that is what also I would tell voters. Yes, there are a lot of things that we can work on. In fact, sometimes, within our own circles also, we have a list of all the things that, we need to do and we can do so much better. But this KKB also has to be looked at in its context. We want to maintain that majority against Perikatan Nasional in our Selangor Dun, not to give them one more inch.
And talking about, the Perikatan Nasional front, what are your thoughts in terms of their candidate? Is
there anything you'd like to?
Because we announced it
Yeah.
last night. So
happy fighting, happy and fair fighting.
Okay, but in terms of looking at the image of the unity government as a whole, maybe not looking at it from the state level for now, because I just want to relay this question across to Neow as well. Like, what do you think the Pakatan Harapan coalition should take to address the dissatisfaction that Malaysians generally have towards the present administration? Because we always hear about, bread and butter issues are not being resolved as fast as they should.
Yes, that's why I said whenever the comments, the suggestions came from MCA, we are considered traitors. We are considered sabotage. In fact, it's not. I believe we are sincere when we pointed out people's issues. For example, from the very beginning, eggs issues, shortages of eggs, shortages of basic necessities, food, for example, rice, e-invoice, KWSP. These are the issues that were raised by Wee Ka Seong in the parliament as a member of parliament. Yeah, but when he raised it, our own unity government colleagues or friends would take it negatively. You see, this is very, for me, it's very unfair, one thing, but secondly, it's bad. It's bad for the government, because if we don't say out or we don't point it out the issues, the other side will definitely take out. It would better for us to say it,
the opposition, you mean?
Which people will see, there are still people from within the government are concerned about this and fighting for us, than from the opposition, right? So when we say things out, it's purely for the benefit of the government, the stability of the government. Doesn't mean that when we say something like the truth, that means we want to cross over. No. Why do we want to think in such a way? That is something that I really don't understand. We advocate freedom of speech. We advocate openness, in politics and so on, democracy and so on. But when we say things that maybe it's difficult to accept because it's the truthful facts, then we started to feel uncomfortable with our friends. It's very unfortunate because no government, we have had experience in the government and in opposition, so we understand. MCA was in opposition after 2018, right? We were in government for many years, so we understand in terms of how to govern, administration, and so on. And then we also played our role in opposition, although back then it was only Datuk Sri Wee Ka Seong, the only member of parliament. Then Datuk Sri Wee Jek Seng came in after the by-election. But we tried our best to play our role, in advocating and championing people's issues. So for me, at the federal level, we really, after the election, and we have 3 years to go, I think PH particularly, even I would say everyone within the coalition. Not to forget, we also have GPS and GRS in the government, right? Yes. So I think when we have agreed to sit together, and we have to be truthful to each other. Whenever we say things, I think it is not, we don't take it at your own perspective, but it's for the betterment of everyone. That is, I think, I would encourage that rather than, whenever we say something, it's from MCA, it's a sabotage. No, it's not. Even though when we decided, we announced that we want to sit out from the KKB by-election, people say we are boycotting. It's completely out of context. We are not boycotting the KKB, but we are just sitting out because of the principle, because of the decision, and other factors, right? So
it's not even because of fear that that the votes won't go to you and will go to another party that is appealing to.
You can say anything, but if we are fearful, then why are we contesting in every single general elections?
Yep.
Okay.
Right?
My question to you, YB, still within the context of considering the unity within the unity bloc, right? We want to understand how we can foster better coalition dynamics between the parties involved here. What are some of your suggestions?
Well, I think I understand where Neow is coming from. That MCA wants to play an honest backbencher role within the UG. From my personal experience and also dealing with other leaders and also within the party and also within the coalition, I think a lot of it has to do with timing. Timing and tone are key. So I'll relate this to my personal experience when, in 2018, just freshly elected, had a lot of hot blood, and, PH 1.0, we were still adjusting from being opposition and then becoming government. That time, Dr. Mazli Malik, who was the Minister of Education, suddenly we found out that he had accepted the presidency of the International Islamic University, IUM.
Right.
And so, in a way, under PH 1.0's manifesto, we say, no political appointments. So I wrote an article denouncing him for that.
Okay.
And the public supported it a lot because, it showed a principled stance. But the political ramifications were quite the opposite. Yeah, I got scolded lah, and rightly so. So because
because you acted on your own.
yes.
Okay.
So that was when I learned that when you're in the government, you have to go through a series of steps. I mean, any organization, just to check, and then why was this decision made, and also the tone of the article. I mean. It could have been done so much better, but also I could have probably just asked Dr. Masli himself, why did you accept it?
Right.
And I didn't that time,
Right.
I mean, of course, since then we've made up, and I apologize, but I think I use that as a very clear example. Timing and tone are so much key. So I can't pinpoint to let's say any particular, let's say, MCA voicing out an issue to illustrate this. But I think if it is done in a way that has shown that you have done your research, you've spoken to the agencies, because we as government, we have access to those agencies. And if you feel that there needs to be more to be done, then that is fine. But of course, also then we talk about the tone, whether is it a suggestion, a suggestion to improve for the government, or a straight up criticism like, why the government not doing this, why is the government not doing that. I think those two actually make quite a difference. So if you want to point to a recent hot issue about footwear, you could say also that actually things like boycotts didn't need to be called straight away, because they could have summoned the agencies in charge to find out why were the footwear printed with offending material,
right.
and then get the other agencies to actually take action. Let's say call for the audit of all the stores across the nation. Right, you had the resources, but you didn't need to go that far. So timing and tone are key.
I understand. So perhaps across the board, what you're calling for is for better communication between your partners, right, in the coalition.
Yeah. And we can of course also I think we can work across interests. Yeah, we can work across interests. I think one very good example is Datuk Sri Amalina of Man Said, who even when we were in opposition before 2018, when they were drafting the Sexual Offences Against Children Act 2017, she called for MPs across the divide to come and listen to briefings to provide their input. It was a bipartisan bill. Yeah, so we can work on interests also to make things seem more all-rounded. Yeah. And save MCA, from being bashed.
No, I mean, I agree on that. I mean, we came out with, I think, supportive comments and statements. Sometimes it's not all bad, we have to be very objective. Seeing, we don't mean to destroy our own coalition or what more within BN, but sometimes it's just from nowhere the attacks came in, right? While we were doing our own things, but the attacks keep coming in. Right? Someone challenging you, leave the coalition, and so on. I mean, this is very unbecoming for me. Coming from MCA, I have to defend this. And personally, I would never allowed anyone to, insult my party. I would not. I'm here to defend. I mean, if we are stating facts, if we are stating, things with, factual, supporting facts, then we can always discuss and debate. But if it's merely accusations, perception, this is something that I cannot accept personally, and I'm here to defend.
Understood. Yeah.
But on that note, do you foresee a future where MCA will support a DAP candidate in any sort of election?
Well, I think I'm not in the position to say that, but we have to accept that world politics is very dynamic. I mean, there's always a possibility. Even when you look at how close UMNO and DAP today, I mean, how can I say things that we cannot foresee? But what I want to emphasize is, regardless of what will happen in the future, as a political party, as a political leader, the best interest must always for the people and for the country. If it's for the best interest of the people, if it's for the best interest for the country, I think there's no reasons we reject any good policy on that note, right? But I think it's too premature to discuss about any possible coalition. We are already in the unity government, right? What we want to see is the sincerity. And how we work together within these few years, right? Until then, right? If we, for example, if we have a friend, but that he's not sincere, then, but because we are in the same class, of course we will sit together because we are in the same class, right? I cannot change my class. I cannot decide and tell teacher that, hey, I don't want to be in this class because I don't like him, right? So we just go on. I mean, life move on. You are here. You have your own responsible. Just focus on your your responsibility and just on that note. But the rest, I think is I leave it to the leadership. I think it's fair to say that we have time. We have time to work together, to know each other better, and until then.
I suppose, to the both of you, there's a lot to learn from this, right? This episode, do you think? YB?
I hope people will find it interesting. Rather than, and I think it's quite appropriate. The show is called Beyond the Headlines, because I think even when both sides put out comments, of course, like at the beginning of the interview, I explained a little bit of Luke's context to the I don't like MCA remark, but of course, a lot of papers would just put, look, I don't like MCA. So I think I hope that people listening today can actually maybe take more understanding of where both sides are coming from. But I think when we talk
at least
about
we didn't say dislike to each other, but I think
the youth are the future sometimes. But,
but I have to admit, yes, this is a very good point. I think being a new generation in the party, I think we are here. Not for the past. Again, I want to emphasize this. We are here for the better future. We are here to fight for a better future. So we have to move on to the new reality.
Yeah, I think if I can just add on a little bit within the context of a unity government, basically it's never been done in Malaysia before. Just such a diverse and, I would say some are almost opposed to each other. I mean, such a gathering than 19 parties in a unity government, which is a handful. So we are all learning and evolving. Like I said, again, in the beginning of the interview, we, DAP, we used to look into ourselves and ask our leaders, like, how can we better, let's say, communicate or work together? What are our strengths, weaknesses, and how can we gel that with other members in the unity government? And we are reaching the end, right? So I'll probably like to cap off, that statement with what the late Kamal Singh said. There are no permanent friends or foes, only permanent principles.
Lovely to put it in that
principles,
way.
yeah.
Unfortunately, this is the end of the episode. I would like to again thank my guests here that's on set from MCA Youth, Neow, Choo, Seong, Thank you so much for being on Beyond the Headlines. From DAP, YB Lim Yi Wei, as well as Hazween Hassan.
Always a pleasure to be on the set with you, and both our lovely guests today.
Thank you.
If you like this particular episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't already, turn on that notification bell, because you won't be only getting Beyond the Headlines update. Other reports for NSC Online will also be notified to you. And if you want to know more about the KKB by-election, stay tuned to us for this particular program. I'll see you next week. My name is Amalina Kamal. Thank you.